Hello everybody, John12 back here again with another video, and I'm back with another who would win battle. Yes, it's time to get right down to it. Now, first off, before I get into the actual fight at hand, I need to make it perfectly clear that Screw Attack's Goku vs. Superman 2 rematch, the rematch of Legends, is done with. Let's not trying to, infuse the hatred and the hate mail and the fucking trolls out into other people's versus matches videos, because, let's face it, it is what it is. That fight, polarized a lot of fans in whichever community you're in, whether it be comic books, superheroes, anime, so on and so forth. So please, don't come over here trying to start shit with, your stupid nonsense of, oh, I don't need it, I don't fucking care, I don't want to listen to it, I don't even want to reply to it, so just screw off with that shit, because, because I had the same problem with Wave 1, where I did Gaara versus Toph, and to this day, I still feel like that was a bad move. I should never have done that fight, and I don't want to do the same thing here, so I just want that to be done with. Screw Attack's fights are over there, you can watch them. If you're fans of them, good, stay over there, go watch them. If you want to come here and watch these videos, then great, and so on and so forth for other fan-made versus matches on YouTube, because they're all awesome. And I just wanted to make that perfectly clear, because, that fight was so controversial that it's just spewing out hate on a fucking magnitude that I can't even withstand right now, and I don't want to even deal with it in these fights. And ironically enough, I'm having a Dragon Ball Z character versus another DC fucking hero, which, to be honest, I had no fucking idea that was how the planets were going to align. I had no idea. I actually came up with this fight way before Screw Attack even came up with their rematch. Maybe they had it in the woodworks where they're like, oh, let's do another one. Maybe. But I just want that to be also clear that I'm not making this fight as a response to people who are bitching about DBZ versus DC. I'm not doing that. This was a fight that I came up with, not a request fight by fans. It was a fight that I came up with that I personally wanted to do months ago, so let's try and keep that in mind as well. Also, before I continue with this fight, I wanted to, give a good shout out to my good old friend, EvilScar23, who actually started his own versus segment on his channel, kind of, trying to steal the thunder from me a little bit, but, I'm going to let it go for right now until I bash him on the podcast, which will hopefully happen, in the following days or weeks. But that being said, he officially started posting his new versus matches, which I think is called Scardome, whatever. The first fight is, if I'm not mistaken, Iron Man versus Wolverine. So if you're interested in that fight, definitely go to his channel, check it out. His channel will be linked up to my channel, obviously. All you have to do is go to my channel, click the button that says channels, and of course you'll find, EvilScar23's YouTube. But that being said, let's get right into this who would win battle. Obviously, it's a fight I've been wanting to do for a while now, and it's, of course, against the badass Piccolo versus the equally as badass Martian Manhunter. Yes, it's freaking Piccolo and John Jones in a battle to the death. Two incredibly awesome green monsters from distant worlds who live on Earth colliding in a match of biblical fucking proportions. Yes, it's awesome. Piccolo, I love to death. You already know I'm a hardcore DBZ tard, as people would call me, on the interwebs, if you will. And I love Martian Manhunter. I mean, I grew up with, the DC animated shows, and Justice League was awesome because of how badass Martian Manhunter was. He was just a killing machine. And I think the amazing part about Martian Manhunter is the fact that he has pretty much the same abilities of Superman, but he has his own separate kind of story, and also he has an expansion on those abilities that make him, I don't want to say superior, but unique in comparison to Superman. But, this match, actually, when you think about it realistically, they're amazing characters that are very, not really polar opposites of each other. They're very similar in a lot of ways, not because of the color of their skin, but the way they had to deal with things and the coming ups of their story arcs, and not to mention the storylines where they came from distant worlds that were completely extinct to their knowledge, and of course they had to live on Earth as outsiders and try to adjust to this new planet. And it's just an amazing story that I really love. I love both of these characters. Piccolo, hands down one of my favorite non-Saiyan characters on DBZ, and Martian Manhunter is hands down one of my favorite Just League members. And they're just both badass characters, and I just really wanted to see them both come into a ring and just battle each other. That's kind of like the general gist of why I'm doing this in the first place. But that being said, let's get into this battle. First off, let's get into Piccolo's powers and abilities. Starting off, first off, I'll be using his manga and anime abilities. I will not be choosing any of the video game abilities that Piccolo has, because I know lots of DBZ characters have an expansion on their abilities, but they're for video games. They're not really canon, so let's keep that in mind. That being said, obviously, as most DBZ characters, Piccolo has a multitude of freaking energy-based attacks, like his antenna beams, which is blasts and electricity shocks that he shoots out of his antennas that are attached to his head. He has destructive wind, your basic ki blast, explosive demon waves, and of course extensions on that, like hyper explosive demon waves. He has the Makosen and Masinko, energy blasts, eye flash, eye lasers, heat vision, if you will, if you want to rechange it and call it something different. Of course, he also has rapid fire, shock wave, special beam cannon. Moving off of that, he has also another expansion of speed and movement techniques, like flight. And he also has the Mystic Attack, which is essentially a very specific Namekian ability to stretch out his limbs, which of course we've seen in the past through movies and obviously Dragon Ball and so on and so forth. And also he has the ability to increase his size to an extraordinary length. Of course, if you've seen Dragon Ball, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But then, of course, Piccolo has tons of other really amazing abilities like regeneration. Namekians possess the ability to regenerate lost limbs, and on specific points, they can also just regrow their power. Not their power, but their body when they've just been destroyed. I guess a good example would be Perfect Cell, where because of how powerful he is, and not to mention having Saiyan cells added on to his Namekian cells, he has the ability to regenerate himself from a single cell organism. So that's the amazing thing about the Namekian gene. But it also really depends on how powerful that specific Namek is. Piccolo, however, who is at this point in time significantly weaker than Perfect Cell, does not have the regeneration ability as him, but you never know. It really depends on how strong he specifically is at the end of Z, which is very, I don't want to say peculiar, but very unspoken and almost a mystery, if you will. But that being said, he also has enhanced hearing. Based off the size of his ears, you can tell that he obviously has a very enhanced hearing. He can he can practically hear the most distant and faintest noises in distant parts of the galaxy and universe. He also has breath cannons. He has other amazing ki senses, which is the ability to essentially sense ki. He also has various variants on, Piccolo's, his special beam cannon. Great Namekian is obviously the ability to increase in size, as I mentioned before. He also has the ability, with the help of Dende, to open up portals, which we've seen in the past before. Various sword attacks. He also has very magical abilities like magic materialization, which is essentially when a character has that specific ability, what that means is essentially having a magical ki ability, if you will, to create objects seemingly from thin air. A good example of that is when Gohan is sleeping, Piccolo is capable of magically creating a new gi for him, and of course, completely creating a sword out of thin air. So that's essentially a good example of that. And he also has telekinesis, telepathy. He also has fusion, which is ability that Namekians can use to fuse together to become one being and become a stronger being. He also has cloning, which is a technique where Piccolo basically divides from himself into two or more versions of his exact self, and also variants of that form, which is triform, and multiform, which is just variants of Piccolo dividing from himself multiple times, whether it be 3 times, 4 times, and so on and so forth. And that's pretty much a brief rundown of Piccolo's powers and abilities. Really amazing abilities that he also kind of shares with Martian Manhunter, which is the interesting part. So it really depends on exactly how they fare off together. But moving off of that, let's get into John Jones' powers and abilities. The first thing you need to understand that Namekian and Martians have 2 completely different physiologies. So to fully examine and research both characters, I really hopefully recommend that both of you, whoever who is listening to this fight, to research Martian physiology and of course Namekian physiology to really understand the difference between Piccolo's powers and of course John Jones' powers and abilities. But that being said, obviously seeing as how obviously Martian Manhunter is from the planet Mars, so he has a completely different sense and powers and abilities in comparison to Superman or regular humans with their own special powers. He also has shape-shifting and variants on shape-shifting, which is an incredible power that he uses to shape-shift into literally anything. He basically has, because of his Martian physiology, he has complete literal control of his molecular structure, which essentially means that he can pretty much make himself into anything. It's kind of unspoken as to whether or not he can really have the powers of whatever he wants, but he does have the ability to shapeshift into literally anything. He also has the ability to, he also has invisibility, which is of course the ability to reflect nothing and become nothing. His body is pretty much, you know, you can't really, it's invisibility. What you have to go into further detail of what invisibility is. Come on, folks. Anyways, he also has a phasing ability, which is his which essentially means that Manhunter can essentially phase through solid objects and other kind of solid matter. He has superhuman ability. He has superhuman strength. Martian Manhunter has extraordinary strength, capable of being almost on par with Superman and various Kryptonians. And he also has superhuman stamina, regeneration, which ironically enough Piccolo shares with him. But the insane part about it is that Martian Manhunter's John Jones' regeneration ability is far more powerful than the Namekians. Possibly even more powerful than Cell's regeneration, where in Martian Manhunter's case, he has this amazing regenerative ability to essentially regenerate his entire body from just a mere liquid, which is amazing ability. I mean, like, it's awesome just to regenerate your limbs and regenerate your body, but just to completely become a pile of mush and then just regenerate yourself is just badass. But of course, also, like most superheroes, he has the ability to fly. He has superhuman speed. He's basically, if you want to compare on other kind of superheroes, Martian Manhunter has the superhuman speed that's basically almost on par with Superman, but below the Flash. So that's essentially where you can pinpoint his speed and ability. He also has longevity, super hearing, super breath, Martian vision, X-ray vision, and various versions of heat vision and various visions, telepathy, illusions, induced sleep, possession, mind scans, mind wipes, mental shield, download information, which essentially, if you don't know what that essentially means, basically, download information is a special ability that Martian Manhunter has, where he can basically download information into someone's brain, which is freaking awesome. He has mind control, thought sensing, telepathic relay, telepathic assault, telekinesis, Martian Manhunter has a genius level intellect. He's also a very good detective, and his biggest weakness is obviously vulnerability to fire. Everyone knows Superman's is obviously his biggest weakness is kryptonite. Martian Manhunter's kryptonite is essentially fire. So basically, if you put him in a ring of fire, Martian Manhunter is pretty much done. But that being said, I'm pretty much done giving my brief rundown of both powers and abilities of Piccolo and Martian Manhunter. Both characters have an amazing track record of amazing powers and abilities and storylines. Both characters are awesome and badass. But let's get right into the fight at hand. Now, first off, I personally think power and strength-wise, I really think Piccolo and Martian Manhunter are really on par with each other. The sad thing about Piccolo is that I don't know if he can really withstand John Jones' power, because even though Piccolo is heavily based on ki ability and ki attacks and ki blasts, and I think Martian Manhunter would specifically really be able to withstand him unless there's like no fire involved, which in Piccolo's case, if he has, fire abilities, I pretty much say he should use them immediately. But that being said, it's really hard because the sad thing about Piccolo is that we can't really pinpoint how strong he is by the end of the Dragon Ball series. It's really hard to tell. The interesting thing about Dragon Ball Super is that you get to go in further detail of how strong certain characters are, with the exception of obviously Goku and Vegeta, who continuously get stronger and stronger. But Piccolo, the biggest fan theory is that essentially Piccolo at the end of the series is roughly as strong or as on par with Super Perfect Cell by the end of the Cell arc, or of how he was at the end of the Cell arc, is pretty much how Piccolo is. I'm guessing based off what majority of all fans have been saying, is at the end of the actual series. So if you can pinpoint Piccolo's power at that point, I really think that strength-wise, Piccolo's going to have a very difficult time at defeating Martian Manhunter. Power-wise, I really think Piccolo has John on the ropes, but beyond that, it's really a coin toss on strength. Speed, however, is another really interesting thing. Hearing is another interesting thing that are really on par with each other. Flight as well. They're really on par with each other with a lot of things. But I think the biggest thing that goes down into it is that Martian Manhunter has specific abilities that Piccolo doesn't, that he can use against him. Number one, Martian Manhunter, John Jones, he's smarter than Piccolo. Piccolo's he's possibly besides Vegeta and Bulma, he's hands down one of the most intelligent characters in the Z series, hands down, next to Gohan and Vegeta and Bulma and so on and so forth. He's definitely one of the most intelligent characters, but he's not as smart as Martian Manhunter. And the great thing about Martian Manhunter is that he continuously gets smarter. He wants to learn a lot of things. He's not from Earth, so he continuously learns more about Earthlings and more about his surroundings. So I'm guessing if, with his special techniques, he would find weaknesses in Piccolo and use his weaknesses against him by learning through what Piccolo does throughout the fight. However, Piccolo and John Jones have regeneration abilities. They can regenerate their limbs, they can regenerate their bodies. However, we've never seen Piccolo in manga form or in anime form, based off my knowledge, we've never seen him essentially grow himself from a mere cell, the same way Perfect Cell did in the Cell Saga. We've never technically seen that, so we don't really know if he can regenerate himself as fast and as efficient as John Jones. John Jones, his regeneration ability is far superior to Namekian's. Namekian's, it really depends on how strong they are, and it really depends on how extensive their training is to really be able to regenerate themselves from a mere specific cell. So it really depends. Even if in some form that Piccolo does demolish John Jones and he just makes him into like a mere liquid form and he's just done and destroyed, Martian Manhunter's just gonna come back. He has the ability to do so. So genius level, regeneration level, and strength, I really have to go with John Jones. Power, flight, speed, hearing, definitely has to go to Piccolo. Telekinesis, telepathy, they're really on par with each other. Sensing is really on par. I think it really depends on really precise techniques that John Jones has that he will use against him. For instance, his mind control abilities. Essentially, John Jones has the ability to control Piccolo, and Piccolo is not really against being controlled. We've seen that in the past, especially in the movies, where Piccolo has been controlled mentally by other evil characters. And Martian Manhunter, I don't really see him controlling Piccolo, but I do really see him really destroying Piccolo from the inside out. So overall, if I had to really sit here and give you a winner, it's a really close fight. Like, I think the closest in comparison has to be, like, if I had to compare it to, like, a fight I had in Wave 1, it's like Android 18 and Wonder Woman. It's so on par that it's like, wow, I really don't know who could win. Piccolo and Martian Manhunter, it's a really on par fight. It's a really beautiful, interesting fight that I would love to see. But if I had to put my money on the table and put it on in a specific player, I'm going full on Martian Manhunter. So yeah, Martian Manhunter for the win. The Mars wins again. John Jones, definitely he's the boss in this fight. Piccolo, he may be the strongest Namekian in the series. He may be of an extraordinarily epic, tactical, super enhanced Namekian, super Namek freaking boss. But at the end of the day, if you compare power, ability, strength, technique, tactics, telepathy, so on and so forth, regeneration especially is like a major factor in this. It just really depends on your personal preference. It really does, because they're so on par with each other, but Martian Manhunter has, I guess, a longer story arc, so he has more time to grow. So you get to have writers really flow more technique and power into him. Where in Piccolo's case is that by the end of Cell Saga in the series, the official series, we don't really know the extent of his power, so we can't really judge it. But based off what I've seen and based off what fans have talked about in fan theory, of course, on the internet, I really have to go with John Jones on this one. So John Jones for the win. Of course, it really, at the end of the day, with all my who would win battles, it's a subjective opinion on my part, but on your part, let me know what you personally think. That's the point of the title. Who do you think would win in a fight? Please let me know down below. Comment below, let me know. Piccolo versus Martian Manhunter. Let me know what you personally think. Who do you think would win? Also, go to my Twitter, @JohnCh12, twitter.com. Please let me know over there using the hashtag who would win Piccolo versus Martian Manhunter, who you personally think would have won and why. And of course, at the end of the day, I love both characters. Piccolo is awesome. Martian Manhunter is fucking awesome. They're both boss characters. They're both fucking green outsiders from their respected heroes. Like, they're basically the same guy. John Jones and Piccolo, they're the green counterparts to their Superman. That's how it is. And at the end of the day, they're both awesome in my book. I loved them to death equally. This fight is definitely on par with each other. But if I had to name a winner on my own time and just say, like, okay, if I'm in freaking Las Vegas and I'm putting the money on the table, I'm putting it on Martian Manhunter based off his regeneration abilities, his multiple mind control abilities, his specific techniques, and his strength alone. I have to go with Martian Manhunter. Piccolo definitely has him on the ropes on power, ki intake, and various other techniques that Piccolo can use against him, especially with his magical abilities, which really don't really come into this effect, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because unlike Superman, magic is really not going to affect Martian Manhunter, and the only thing that's going to affect Martian Manhunter, if you have any chance of defeating him, is unless you have a freaking fire, or you're just going to have to, like, I guess, fuse with him. Like, there's the winner for you. Winner, Martian Manhunter, or 2.5, the winner is Piccolo Hunter. That's the fucking winner. Piccolo Hunter. They fuse and become one being, one ultimate being. That's like my dream come true. Piccolo Hunter. Martian Piccolo. That's my fucking dream right there. So that's the true winner. The fucking who would win 2.0 fucking who would win. It's, Piccolo Hunter. That's my fucking win. So, but at the end of the day, Let me know what you personally thought in the comments below. Also, let me know on Twitter at my personal Twitter. The links are always everywhere. Just go to my channel and you'll find them. That being said, time for a tease for next week's battle, which will be an amazing who-to-win battle between Robin from the DC Universe versus Hit Girl from the Kick-Ass Universe. Yes, it's time to have the ultimate kid sidekicks battle to the death against one another. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Definitely come back next week to check out, obviously, that battle between Robin versus Kick-Ass, Hit Girl, rather. And, of course, also check out my last battle, which was Itachi versus Ultron. Definitely check out these Who Would Win battles. Wave 2 is definitely going off with a kick. Hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. And this has been John 12.